We asked two sustainability officers to touch on what competencies make them most effective in their role.
I think one of the core competencies to be a CSO or anybody working in, quote, sustainability in a company is to be able to speak to different audiences. And we call that a corporate chameleon. I've also heard the term polite persistence in terms of how we approach different parts of our organization. I would say that that looks different at every company. So while I feel like my senior leaders are really on board, what I struggle with is actually communicating and talking more to the people who have been with the company for 20, 30, 40 years, are used to doing their jobs in a certain way. And now I'm coming in and asking them to think differently about that or to do it differently. And so there's a whole culture shift that has to happen in order to get everybody on board so we're all swimming in the same direction and delivering on those sustainable outcomes.
So the competency of being a corporate chameleon and bringing in sustainability into all of the discussions that happen in an organization in a way that's understood by people that don't know the lingo of sustainability, that don't really know what the ESG stands for, is really important. Again, whenever you drive an initiative or when you want to have success in something that you do, people have to buy in, people have to understand it, and people have to be able to incorporate that in the day-to-day things that they do. So being a corporate chameleon and just saying, sustainability means that we do things differently this way, and people understanding it just moves the needle so much further and so much faster.
So I have a team right now of one, but the work that I do expands across the entire organization. So I have to be responsible for getting at least 35 additional teams across the organization on board before we can disclose things. Have to be able to let them know how it impacts their business, what the upstream and downstream effects are on our business if we don't comply with either the new regulations, if we don't listen to what our clients or investors are asking us. And we're doing this with a very, very small team. So trying to get management group and the board on board, it's not easy. But I will say that we're coming along. We are much further along than we were 6 years ago when I started in this space. That's probably one of the things I like the most about this is that I can get people on board and then I can let them be on their own when I have to be fully responsible for them all the time.
One of the core competencies of being a CSO is strategy and vision. And so it's so important, I think, to figure out what matters most for the company and where the opportunity is, and being able to narrow down the where you'll play part of strategy for sustainability. So there's a lot of issues out there, and a lot of people want you to work on a lot of issues, but you can't boil the ocean. And so being able to prioritize, focus in, it allows you to make a bigger impact in your sustainability space. And it also lets you say no to things that aren't terribly material to your specific business. And I think also being able to set a vision. So for people who don't know this for a living, like what could this look like for the company? Like what could it do for the company's brand? What could it do for the company commercially? What could it do as far as retaining and attracting talent and really laying out that vision for your fellow executives?
I really do think that corporate strategy and vision is one of the biggest competencies. It's also, I think, one of the gaps from kind of new talent to the profession and leadership. I think if we can't communicate what we are trying to drive, the change we're trying to make in business terms that everybody else in the C-suite can understand, we're going to be less effective. So being able to predict the future and help our companies understand what they need to do to get there is a critical role for us.
Well, vision is critically important because at the end of the day, everyone in the business has a day job, and in a lot of ways, sustainability has become their night job. And so what you want to do is tap into their underlying, I'd say, passion for a better, greener world and have them harness that into their day job. And so that's where vision, I think, is critically important. Also for companies like ours, we have 42,000 employees. The big power that we have, the big juice is our 42,000 employees. And we are, I think, given the pace of the field, given the disruption, we're in an all hands on deck moment where we need all practitioners thinking through, what is our North Star in sustainability? How do we get there? And what are the choices we can make across the year to get there? Strategy is the way businesses make choices. And it's critically important for CSOs to understand and have empathy for the underlying business and understand how sustainability shows up in their business to drive value. You really have to get into the business, I'd say, with a sense of empathy and value, and how do you drive the business? Because at the end of the day, we're not an environmental group, we're a company. So we need the business to grow as the sustainability practices grow.